Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Early Childhood Chats podcast. My name is Andy Rozak, and it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us. I am really excited about today's guest. We have Nikkia Mosley coming to us from the great state of Georgia, and I'll let Nikkia tell her own story, but I will just say she is an inspiring, motivating, passionate individual who has been through a lot in her life. And to see the number of accomplishments that she continues to rack up is nothing short of inspirational. So I'm really excited for you to be here. And let me toss it over to Nikkia. Nikkia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So my name is Nikkia Mosley, and I have been with Head Start for about 26 years now. I started off as an early Head Start and Head Start parent. Then I worked on the policy council, and then I was asked to be the policy council chair. I was voted in to be the policy council chair. In a few months after participating as a chair, I had a daughter that was in Head Start and a daughter that was in early Head Start. I soon then became a teacher assistant. Then I became a teacher. From a teacher, I went to a center manager. I worked multiple coordinator positions, multiple director positions, and now I am also an executive director. I have served in a total of 6 different regions, to include the Migrant Seasonal Head Start program as well as the tribal program. So very well-rounded. I've sat on the National Migrant Head Start Association board, and I've also completed the NHSA directors program. And I just went through the UCLA fellowship for Head Start and just completed that as well. So I'm super excited to just be a part of Head Start, because Head Start has changed the trajectory of my entire life and the life for my children.
Well, wonderful. It's great to have you on the podcast and really appreciate your time and of course your dedication and your passion, which already starts to shine through. Tell me a little bit about being a Head Start parent. Do most parents understand what Head Start is, or what was that initial entry point into the system? How did you hear about Head Start? How did they kind of explain what it was, and what really appealed to you as a parent?
Sure. So when I started off, I was actually a teenage parent. I had my first son. My mother actually sold me to her crack dealer. So I lost my virginity and I was raped, and I chose to keep my son. It was my in between my junior and my senior year of high school. So when I went to high school, it was like a big push. Like, I'm not going to be able to finish school. You're going to need to drop out, like make a choice between going to work full time, going to school full time. And I was just determined that I was going to graduate high school, because neither one of my parents graduated high school. So in talking to my counselor at the high school, when she was asking me what I wanted to do, and basically I was feeling like, because I had scholarships to go to other colleges and I wanted to go into the military, these were no longer options for me because I had a little baby to take care of. She had recommended that I do the Head Start program. She said I could also do it as a work study, where I could do, some work hours and volunteer in their program, as well as send my son there for Head Start. So when I started the Head Start program, I was very apprehensive and frustrated in the beginning, because there were so many different requirements. It felt like the advocate always needed something from me. And being a teen mom, a single mom, a new mom, it was just too much. It was like I needed medical stuff. I needed to provide this. I needed to attend a visit. And it was just very overwhelming. And then I remember one day when my family advocate pulled me aside and she was like, I believe in you. And I said to her, what do you mean? Like, I don't have anything. Like, how can you believe in what? And she's like, I believe in you. And she's like, the only person that can change your future and your children's future is you. And I took that and asked her, well, what do you mean? And she helped me enroll in college. She helped me get my own place. She helped me, look at my potential as a person. So then I got into Head Start and became a teacher, and I was taking classes, and next thing you know, I was just steady climbing up the ladder at a rapid pace in multiple Head Start programs. I've moved all over the country, and for the longest, people thought we were a military family. It was like, no, we're not a military family. We're a Head Start family. I just moved, taking different opportunities in Head Start, and really just took it upon myself to read and grow and learn, because the opportunities compared to a traditional childcare center, which I have also worked at, or the school district, which I had also worked at, Head Start really cared not only about my child, but they cared about me. And the fact that there were staff that was open and willing to see me succeed, even though I didn't have that family circle or that family network, I had the Head Start family that cared more about my child. They cared about me and my child. They wanted me to be successful so my children could be successful, who are both now in college.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's a big accomplishment and an expensive accomplishment too, by the way, right?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
So I don't want to sell it short at all. I mean, it sounds like you really had a difficult childhood growing up, and it seems from some of your comments already that you may not have been getting the caring and nurturing at home like we would hope. But
No.
it sounds like maybe the Head Start program provided a place for some of that comfort and encouragement and was a force for positivity in your life.
It was. It was very life-changing. For me, I had been exposed to nothing but adversity. My father was murdered in front of me when I was 14. My mom left when I was 5, and then when I found her at 16, she sold me. So it's like I had just been one thing after the other, and Head Start really inspired me. And I went back to school, and I got 2 undergrads and 2 masters, and I'm about to enter my doctorate program. So it really inspired me, and it inspired me to do things with my children that my family didn't do with me, like reading to my children, doing activities with my children, advocating for my children. It was just very life-changing. And I've had so many opportunities to go other places with my degree and my education, but I just want to pay it forward to Head Start, because I feel like without Head Start, I and my children would not be in the place that we are now.
Well, I don't even know what to say. I mean, the trauma we talk about, adverse childhood experiences or events, and certainly you tick off a tremendous amount of boxes there. How did you handle some of that from a mental health standpoint? How did you keep it together? I'm just amazed. Not only you were going through that as a child, but then on top of that, you had a child of your own, and to be that
Yes,
kind of strength and that beacon of hope for your child when you were faced with such extraordinary situations. Can you talk a little bit about kind of
I
how you kept
can.
yourself grounded there?
It was difficult at first. By the time I was 23, I was a mother of 3 children, and it looked and appeared like I was doing everything right. I bought my first home at 23, my first car, had a good job, but emotionally, I was scarred, and I was really like messed up. I was on antidepressant medication. I was in and out the hospital with anxiety. I was suicidal at times. I just felt like I can't do this. And my children were my motivation to keep pushing forward, but it almost felt like it wasn't enough. And I ended up getting into a marriage and getting married, and it was an abusive relationship where I found myself just about to lose everything around me. And it wasn't until recently during the pandemic, when everything shut down, that I took that time and I was like, I need to work on me. All these years later, here I am now 40 years old. During the pandemic, all of my children are coming home from college because everyone's locked in the house. And that downtime during the pandemic really allowed me to face things that I tried to use success to cover up. I didn't deal with my mental health. When the pandemic occurred, I started going to mental health counseling, and I started putting myself first. And between the pandemic and now, I've lost 240 pounds. Because of the depression, I had gained all of this weight. I had all of these health issues. Now I don't have any health issues. I'm off of all the medication that I was on. lost all of this weight. And when I used to hear that people say that depression and weight gain are tied to each other, I used to think that they were crazy, but it's not. It was all relatable because I had ulcers and my hair was falling out. It was just all of the stress that I was covering up by thinking that by succeeding, I'm okay. But I had to learn that I wasn't okay and that I needed to talk to someone. I needed to deal and address my issues. And I had been sharing my story on different Head Start platforms. And I think that's when I began my healing process, because I realized how many other people are like me, how many other parents, just hearing my story inspired them and gave them hope. And that started the healing process, along with me getting professional help to be able to talk through and cope through those traumas that I had experienced. And also getting my children that help as well, because I didn't realize until the pandemic came and they're grown now and we're all home and trapped in the house. I'm thinking I did an amazing job. And then I find out they too had trauma from the things that they experienced or saw or remembered. So we did a lot of group counseling and single counseling, and now everyone is in a good place. My son is a police officer in Charlotte. My one daughter goes to Pratt Institute for engineering, and then I have another daughter who's studying biology at Kennesaw State.
Wow. Well, it sounds like your kids are overachievers just like you are. That's really an
Yeah.
amazing trait to pass on.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about it already, but I think what's really interesting is, as sad as it is, that there's other parents that are out there going through maybe not
Yes.
exact, but very similar situations that you found yourself in. And I'm wondering kind of what your advice is to parents like that. How do you handle that? Obviously, there's a lot of sensitivity here, and we know parents are struggling, and oftentimes it's embarrassing to ask for help. So how would you engage parents? What are some of the strategies you use to kind of pull them out and create that area of comfort for them?
Usually when I start off sharing my story and they see my transparency, parents start to open up and they feel like they can relate to me. And I'm very just transparent in regards to what I experienced, letting families know it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. You're not going to get it right all the time, but you have to create that circle of trust around you to be able to build a strong foundation to climb up out of that rut of trauma, is what I call it. And I try to put myself out there to be that person. I have made contacts with several families at conferences and even staff members, because a lot of Head Start staff members are staff members that are from trauma, and just letting them know you just need a person to talk to. I've connected so many families to mental health, because mental health had such a huge stigma until the pandemic came, and just helping families realize the importance of acknowledging and accepting that it is okay to get help.
Well, you've certainly seen a lot, 26 years, multiple different positions,
Yes.
very different viewpoints. I'm curious, what's your thoughts? What's your opinion? How has our early childhood field changed over those 26 years? Where were we at, and where are we going? And what does the kind of the future look like to you?
I feel that we have become very compliance driven and checking boxes. And I speak about this in a lot of different conferences that I do. And the reason that I share my story and advocate so much, because Head Start is a special program. There's no other program like it. No matter how much the school district wants to be like us or the daycare wants to be like us, there's only one Head Start. And with that being said, it's critical and important that we work together to maintain what Head Start, that foundation that Head Start was built on. And that's really caring about families, just not saying it, just not putting it on a flyer, not checking a box, making sure that we're meeting compliance, but really genuinely caring and really focusing on the entire family. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit. And I think early childhood education in the forefront, what I would like to see is for Head Start to become the leader again and stand on the values that they created, because the program does work. I am proof that the program works. My children are proof that the program works. And there's nothing that compared to it. No child care center, no matter how high the quality of child care center is. No school district, no matter how high the school district is. I have experienced so many personal nightmares with the school district. And because of my experience with Head Start, I was gracefully able to get through it. And I would just like to see Head Start not forgetting its roots and not focusing on all of the distractions that are created for Head Start around compliance, around enrollment, around competition, and really just staying focused on what matters, and that's the families. Because I think as long as Head Start puts that at the forefront, we're always going to be around and we're always going to be better. I think the minute that we allow ourselves to be compared to the school district or childcare centers or any type of early childhood education program, then we lost focus. Because when I think of early childhood education, I think of daycare, I think of school district. When I think of life-changing education, I think of Head Start, because Head Start is so much more than early childhood education. It offers so many different comprehensive services and opportunities to families. And there's no words that can describe the power that Head Start has to take a family like myself who came from nothing, had nothing, knew nothing, and now I'm an executive director at Fort Valley State University over an entire grantee of over $13 million. I would have never imagined that in a million years.
Well, kudos to your perseverance, your passion, your hard work. Obviously, it shows through. I'm curious if you could put on your Head Start director hat for a minute.
Yes.
And, you know, you've seen a lot. You've been in 6 different regions and worked with a variety of programs. What kind of keeps you up at night as a Head Start director? What are the real challenges facing your program and the programs of your peers across the country at this time?
I think that what keeps me up is Head Start going to be around? There's a lot of talk right now about Project 2025. What does Project 2025 mean for Head Start? That's a huge piece. There's a huge piece about, the competition, where we have a lot of our Head Start children now going to the school district because it's more convenient than sending your child to different places if you already have a child in the school district. So to me, it's all about educating those families and making sure that those families understand why Head Start is different.
Well, and if you start to think about the 50 plus years now that Head Start has been around, I'd be curious on your opinion. It seems to me that we've moved past the point of babysitting. I think people understand Head Start doesn't equal babysitting. So that's a win. Hey, we'll take the wins
Yes,
where we can get it.
that's right.
But, to kind of your point here, worried about Head Start being around, I would say systemically then, if we're worried that Head Start's not going to be around, then we're not doing something right, telling the
Right.
story and the value and what Head Start truly is. And I'm curious. I mean, stories like yours, I think, should be amplified to the 100th millionth degree, because
Yes.
this is success. This is what success looks like. This is how we actually help people. This is how early childhood education should strive to be: a quality environment that engages the community. And by the way, is locally focused, because what's going to work in California may not work in Georgia or Maryland or somewhere
Correct.
else. So, how do you, like, when you talk to legislators, when you talk to people who actually hold the money, what's the best message to convey the real value of Head Start?
So I have had plenty of conversations on the Hill with different legislation, senators or whatever, about Head Start. And I tell them, come see it for yourself. It is something that you have to see with your own eyes. People can tell you anything, but if you come to the Head Start program and actually sit in a classroom and you see what we see, you will understand the messaging. If you have conversations with staff, because the majority of program staff were either Head Start children or Head Start parents, and you hear their success, you hear their journey, then they will understand the importance of Head Start. That Head Start is just not a program where you send your child to learn. It's a life-changing program for that family that you're serving and outreaching, for all of the family that is involved with that particular family.
Many of your staff, I'm guessing, don't have a similar background to the horrible things that you've had to go through. How do you convey to your staff kind of an understanding about what some of the parents that you serve may have going on in the background? How do you get that empathy? How do you get that compassion? How do you kind of prompt your
Yes.
staff to be asking those probing questions and be a support pillar, recognizing they may not have that personal experience and may have no context to kind of put this whole framework in?
That's a good question because recently I just started here in Fort Valley in like January. And in one of our in-services that came up, I shared my story, but there were a lot of younger generation that have joined our team and they really don't understand that or understand that concept. And I say to them this one word or this one phrase: meet people where they are. If you come to work every day and you're willing to meet people where they are, everything else is going to work out. You have to come to the table without any biases or without any judgments. I used to work for the state of Georgia for DFACS, and how I got that job is so ironic because I was leaving an abusive relationship and the caseworker was so nasty to me when I was applying for welfare, which I didn't want to, but I had a job in South Carolina, but I couldn't take the job because you had to have welfare in order to get childcare, which made no sense. So I had to quit the job. And she was just so rude to me. And I remember I said this to her and I say this to my staff. The only thing that separates the two of us is this desk, because you don't never know what God has for you. It could be you on the other side of the desk applying for welfare. It could be you on the other side of the desk in poverty. It could be you on the other side not knowing how you're going to pay your bills at night. And I ended up getting hired at that DFACS office because she went and got her supervisor, and he said that he was just really shocked that no one had ever approached a caseworker in that manner. And my thing is, you don't know someone else's story. You can't look at someone and tell that they're happy or that they're okay. And how suicide and depression is on an all-time high right now, people really need to be mindful of the things that you say and how you treat people, because you never know if it's your one action or your one word or phrase that changes someone's entire life, either for the good or bad. So I tell my staff all the time, meet people where they are. You don't have to have the same experiences. You don't even have to understand the same experiences, but you do need to respect those experiences, and you need to be able to give grace, because everyone isn't at the same place. And just like I'm asking my staff to give grace to families, I say to my staff, wouldn't you want that same grace to me? Like when I came in and there were so many things that were not correct, I didn't come in with a hammer like, you did this wrong and you did this wrong. No, I took it as these are learning opportunities and we're here together, and let me help you see what you don't see in yourself. I'm really big on empowering my staff to be the best that they can be. Not the best that I want them to be, but the best that they can be. And the only way that people can be the best that they can be is if you give them hope and you don't judge them and you meet them where they are.
I think everyone would agree. A little more empathy in today's society could go
Absolutely.
a long way.
A long way.
And in my lifetime, I've never really seen society more on edge and more at each other's throat and more ready to snap at a moment's notice for the trivial things in
Yes.
life. I mean, you get worried about even just honking at somebody if you're trying to make a turn or something, because they might take it so wrong, and heaven knows what could happen. But
Right.
having that vision of kind of let's meet people where they're at, I think is really helpful and insightful. And I'm curious, you're obviously at Fort Valley State
Yes.
University. Can you talk a little bit about what your interaction, engagement, partnership is with the actual university itself? Are you getting
Yes.
students coming to your program? Are you serving students with the kids, or what does that look like?
So prior to me coming here, that really wasn't happening. Fort Valley State University had been through multiple directors. They have been a pillar in the community for a very long time. I used to live in this community a long time ago in like 10th and 11th grade when I stayed with my grandmother. And this was like my dream school that I wanted to come to. So the fact over 20 years later, it comes back full circle. And now I'm actually working at the school. Since I've been here, we have implemented in our selection criteria where students can come to the program for free. That's a part of our selection criteria. And we have also implemented where all of the different discipline areas can get practicum hours and volunteer hours by working with the Head Start program. So I have a wonderful staff. Fort Valley State University team is amazing, and it has I'm just very appreciative to have a university that is so supportive in my vision and allowing me the autonomy to be able to make changes and take our program into a better direction, a direction that everyone feels wanted and everyone feels valued, and that the families and the staff and the community truly get the full experience of not only Head Start, but of Fort Valley State University.
And I think you're pretty uniquely positioned here, given the background of where you're sitting now. The pipeline, the workforce is a major
Yeah.
concern when we think about early childhood across the spectrum, whether you're family provider, Head Start, private childcare, and everything in between. What are you kind of seeing in your daily interactions with the next generation, with the students? Are there interest in early childhood? What are some of the barriers? How do we entice people to come and join us in early childhood education?
I think there has been a downfall in early childhood education in Georgia altogether. In Fort Valley, I would say I'm a little fortunate in regards to building our pipeline, because if you are an employee at Fort Valley State University, your education is paid for in full. Associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorate degree, it's all paid in full for as long as you're an employee here. So that supports us well in building our pipeline. Now, outside in our community is a different story, which also impacts us because we also have childcare partnerships. So when you see the decrease in early childhood education, I say in order to bring that back, we would have to get away from being so compliance driven and seen by compliance and really get back to the human part of it, the compassion part of it. I think the world itself has just gotten so crazy and has everyone on edge, thinking that every single thing is a problem or a crime, or you have to have a rule or a policy for every single thing that occurs. But I think if people just take a step back and take a deep breath and just realize we've been doing this for over 50 years and it has worked. And I think if people don't forget about the true concept of Head Start and early Head Start, I think that would increase the pool for people to be a part of early childhood education. I think if wages were higher, I think that's a big factor, because the new generation that's coming out, I know both of my daughters are like 21 and 24 right now. That's what you hear. That it doesn't pay enough. I could do something else, and when we were coming up, that wasn't the focus. The money wasn't the focus. It was the compassion of it. But also when we were coming up, things weren't as high as they are now. So it was affordable to live on your own and have a job that's your passion that didn't pay much. And nowadays, not so much. So I think if programs take advantage of reducing slots to be able to pay their staff more money, and then getting those slots back by getting other opportunities to expand your program, I think right sizing our Head Start programs and early Head Start programs is the answer to building that pipeline, because the wages have to be competitive in order for us to survive.
Well, and what we've seen, countless cities across the country, we are, as you referenced before, seeing kind of a competition now for the 4 and 5 year olds. And, I talked to a lot of people around the country saying, gosh, I'm thinking that maybe the future of Head Start is early Head Start, because nobody's going after the 0 to 3. And quite honestly, nobody wants the 0 to 3. They're very
They don't.
labor intensive, and it's
Yeah,
hard work. It's very, yeah. Hey, look, I got a 7-month-old upstairs and I got a 3-year-old. So I'm living early Head Start right now.
yeah,
And it's not the easiest thing sometimes. It's, easy to
not.
get burned out, but you kind of hinted at it before in your comments. What do you think? Are school districts, uniquely qualified to care for 4 and 5-year-olds? What is making this push of school systems kind of encroaching on traditionally early childhood audiences? What do you think about this?
I think for the school district, it's pretty much a convenience thing. I think families choose school districts because they already have a child at the school district, and it's easier to put everybody on one bus, or it's easier to take everyone to one place. And that's what it's about, because we live in a time where everything is fast, everything is convenient. Like, I want it here and I want it now. But I will say, because at one of our centers, our Marshallville Center, for years, families do not go to the school district, whether they have other children there or not. They have always been committed to coming to that one center. So I asked myself, and what is so different about that one center? It's because that one center goes above and beyond to really show how they're different. It's the branding. And I think if Head Start did that overall, and stop looking at, we're competing. You can't compete with someone that's nothing like you. The school district and the child care centers can't hold a match to the experience that Head Start provides. Head Start, I wouldn't even describe it as school. I would describe it as an experience, because depending on where you live or what community you're in, it's just a wealth of opportunities and knowledge that is available at your fingertips from participating in a Head Start or early Head Start program. So I really think just getting those stories out there so people can hear the testimonies and see the testimonies, it'll really have people looking at Head Start in a different way. Because those are not testimonies that you're going to hear from a school district or a child care center. And I think we just have to rebrand and get these stories that exist so people can understand how life-changing Head Start and early Head Start are.
To that point, in speaking as a parent who's lived through the Head Start system, and now as a director overseeing the Head Start program, tell us a little bit about what are these things? What is a policy council? What's parent engagement? As a Head Start parent, how do I actually get involved? And quite honestly, why should I get involved? I'm busy. I don't want to get involved. What's the return on investment? How do you get your parents involved? How do you meet some of these requirements? And I fully appreciate your comments earlier. I think in many ways we've moved to almost a checkbox
Yeah.
society where if it's not on the checklist, we don't know what to do. And I that does trouble me a bit. Um,
Yeah.
but talk to me about like parents' engagement. How should they be helping the Head Start program? What's in it for them? How do you kind of draw them in and keep them, interested in Head Start as a program?
Absolutely. So parents can get involved in Head Start by actually coming to their monthly parent meeting. And then from their monthly parent meetings, they're actually have the opportunity to be voted on to the policy council. And then the policy council opens up even more opportunities for you to be able to advocate, be able to travel to different conferences, be able to make decisions and support in things like hiring staff or approving grants and approving budgets and things of that nature. I really feel that parent involvement is very important, and I cannot stress it enough. One of my children, my daughters, had autism, and being a parent and being a part of the policy council, I really learned how to advocate. And thank goodness for those advocating skills that I learned from Head Start, because when we got to the school district, they tried to tell me that I couldn't have her tested, and they tried to tell me that once we did get an IEP, that I had to go by what they told me that she needed, and that's not true. They had to give me a book that lists my rights and responsibilities, and they had to provide what I wanted as a parent, not what the school district wanted. And it's just, parents have the power. They have more power than they will ever understand. And I think that's why it's important for parents to volunteer. Now, I will share this that I shared with my staff, because our parent involvement has picked up since I've started. Because I shared with them, we can't do the same things for parent involvement that you did 20 years ago, that you did 10 years ago, that you did 5 years ago. We have to understand, for the first time in a long time, if ever, we are in a work population of several different generations that coexist with one another. And one shoe doesn't fit every person. So you have to, as a program, get to know who your families are, survey your families, care about your families. Don't just sign your families up and be like, okay, this is a child and I met my quota, or I met my number, I'm fully enrolled. Really take the time to learn and engage with your families and find out what they want. Clear example, we have several single fathers. Our policy council is majority men. Several single dads in our program, and in taking the time to reach out to them, they wanted something as simple as a class to learn how to do little girls' hair, which I thought was amazing, because my dad raised me as a single father, and I remember him taking hours to brush my hair, and my ponytail would still be crooked. So I was like, that's amazing. But that's not something, as a Head Start employee, you would think of. And that's why it's important to listen to our parents. Allow the parents some grace to be able to drive and maneuver of what they want to learn. I encourage my staff not to have meetings that check the box where they're talking at my parents. As I explained to them, as a parent, I've been in school all day, I've been at work all day, you've had my child all day. I don't care if you're feeding us or not. I don't want to come and hear you talk after I've already seen you. But if you're having a meeting that's going to show me how to buy a home, how to fix my credit, how to do something that's going to better me and my child, then I'm going to be there. And why not make it easier? Do you have childcare available? Are you serving dinner for my entire family, so when I get home, I don't have to cook? It's like, take your dollars in your budget, look at your budget, and stop looking at the budget. I'm checking boxes and I'm fixing this or that. A good portion of our budget went to families, because I want to make sure that we are pouring into family engagement. Because once you take that investment and we pour into the families, the recruitment piece happens all by itself, because the families recruit other families, telling them, oh my God, all of these great things that I've learned and I've experienced at this program. And then it just, everything works out for itself.
Well, as the father of 2 young girls, please sign me up for that hair class. I'd love to learn. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos and I still can't seem to get it right. So maybe I'll come to Georgia next time and you could teach
That's
me how to
right.
properly do it. But it's an excellent point. And you think about, look, it's no mystery that parents talk. I mean, we
Right.
share, we have our networks. We talk, quite often, and nothing is a good referral like a referral from another parent. I mean, you can't beat it,
That's
right?
right.
So, I love the engagement that you're doing. I love all the different techniques you're trying. So thank you for being proactive. And it's, we see so many different sessions and so many different organizations just talking about fatherhood engagement. So it's exciting to see. You've done a great job of that.
Yes, I have an amazing family community engagement director, and he just did like what was it, basketball, like a basketball madness, like sport event. And he's always coming up with these crazy innovative ideas for our fathers. And it's just a really amazing feeling to see how many dads we have involved. We have so many fathers involved, and I owe that a lot to my family services director, because he is really invested, and just goes all the way, 100%, 110% for those dads, and making sure that they understand the critical need for them to be involved in their child's education.
We're talking to Nikkia Mosley. You're going to be down in the Virgin Islands in October. Very excited to have you come into the Region 2 Head Start Association conference.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's been really publicly announced, but you're going to be one of the closing speakers. And I'm wondering, what are you going to be talking about? What can folks look forward to hearing about?
I'm going to be talking about my story. I'm going to share my story with everyone, letting them know what I've been through and now where I am as an executive director, and sharing with staff and if families that are there, letting them know some steps that they can take as we all work together to get the word out that Head Start and Early Head Start is a life-changing experience, and that we're here to stay, and that we're not a competitive program. We are a unique program, and we can never forget that there is no competition. You can never compete with something as great as the experience with Head Start and Early Head Start.
I can't wait. It's going to be a great way to close out hopefully a wonderful conference.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of folks down there. I'm thinking about all the different, opportunities you've had to examine early childhood throughout the years as a parent, as a teacher, as a coordinator, as a manager, as a director. For those that are looking to get up to where you're at now, that executive director level, the head honcho, what are the skill sets that have been really important to you? What has really served you best in this journey that you've been on?
Oh, yes. Transparency for one, because I believe in being transparent. Integrity is everything, being honest, being genuine, but most of all, being compassionate. I think as long as you have those, you're going to have no problem of moving up the ladder. But you have to have that drive that you're not going to wait on someone else to give it to you. You're going to do it. You're going to read. I tell my staff all the time, don't wait for someone else to give you the information. Trust your own information. Pick up those performance standards. Pick up those policies and procedures. Watch what's going on in the news and learn for yourself. Learn information, because people can take anything away from you in this world, but one thing they can't take is your education.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good point. And some of us have spent a lot of money on our education. I don't know that it was
Absolutely.
worth I think I've learned more in the
Absolutely.
real world than in the classroom, to be honest. But in the Head Start classroom's a different vibe. I've learned a lot in there. But
Yes.
well, we really appreciate you taking time. If folks want to learn more about your program, follow your work, support your efforts, what's the best way to get in touch with you or see what you're up to?
Sure. So they can follow me at Nikkia.Mosley at fvsu.edu, which is Fort Valley State University. Our website is fvsu.org. And they can reach me in my email or follow our webpage.
Well, fantastic. Well, I really, really appreciate you coming on. I am beyond inspired by your story, and I appreciate your candidness and ability to talk about it and really, gosh, your resiliency in the face of so many challenges in your life. I don't know you that well, but I'm beyond proud of where you're at, and I'm so proud of all the great stuff your children are doing. Thank you for being here and doing such a fantastic job. Your passion shines through, and it's very, very inspiring. And I wonder, is there any inspiring words, thoughts, comments, anything that you want to leave with folks as we wrap things up?
I would just like to let everyone know that's listening that everything is possible. Empower the possible.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, thank you for being with us on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed the content. We have a lot of great folks coming up. And please drop us a line, drop us a review. We're always looking to get feedback and make these as impactful and as meaningful as possible. So for the Early Childhood Chats podcast, this is Andy saying thank you very much. And we will see you on the next podcast.